The great space station called Nexus Prime floated in the dark void between stars. It was bigger than most cities, with metal walls that gleamed under the light of distant suns. Inside its massive halls, beings from 12 different worlds had gathered for one purpose. They were here to decide what to do with humanity. Captain Jake Torres sat in the prisoner's chair, his hands bound with energy chains that hummed softly. He wore his blue Earth uniform, though it was torn and dirty from weeks in the holding cells. Around him, the circular chamber rose up like an ancient arena. But instead of crowds cheering for blood, alien beings stared down at him with cold eyes. The aquatic dominion held the largest section of seats. Their blue-skinned leader, Ambassador Vex, had gills that opened and closed as he breathed the water-filled atmosphere around his chair. His black eyes never left Jake's face. To the left sat the Insect Collective, their chittering voices creating a constant buzz in the air. On the right, the rock people stood silent as mountains, their stone faces showing no emotion. High Chancellor Kor dominated the center of the chamber. The reptilian being stood nearly 10 feet tall, his scales dark green and scarred from old battles. When he spoke, his voice boomed through the hall like thunder. "We are here to judge the species known as humanity," Kor announced. His forked tongue flicked out as he spoke. "They have committed acts of violence against the Galactic Council. They have refused our peaceful offers. They have shown themselves to be dangerous to all civilized life." Jake wanted to shout, to tell them they were wrong, but the energy chains around his wrists made it hard to speak. Every time he tried to move, pain shot through his body. Ambassador Vex rose from his water-filled chair. Mechanical legs carried his tank forward so all could see him clearly. "I will present the evidence against humanity," he said, his voice bubbling through the water. 3 months ago, our peaceful contact fleet arrived at the human homeworld called Earth. We came in friendship, offering them a place in our great civilization. The chamber's walls lit up with images. Jake saw his home planet as the aliens had recorded it. Blue oceans, white clouds, green continents. It looked so beautiful and small from space. "We asked only for access to their planet's resources," Vex continued. "Rare metals that our civilization needs. In exchange, we offered them technology, knowledge, and protection. This is how First Contact has worked with every species for 1,000 years." More images appeared. Jake saw the council ships hanging in Earth's sky like dark clouds. There were hundreds of them, each one the size of a mountain. They had blocked out the sun over major cities. "But the humans refused," Vex said, his gills fluttering with what might have been anger. "They called our offer an invasion. They said we had no right to their world. Then they did the unthinkable. The images changed. Jake watched his own people fight back against ships that could destroy continents. Human fighters, tiny as insects, swarmed around the alien vessels. Missiles exploded harmlessly against energy shields. But the humans kept coming. They attacked us," Vex declared. "A primitive species with crude weapons dared to fire upon the Galactic Council. They destroyed 3 of our ships. They killed over 2,000 beings. They showed no mercy, no respect for civilized law." Jake remembered that day. He had been on the bridge of the Earth defense ship Victory when the shooting started. The aliens had given them 24 hours to surrender complete control of Earth's resources. When humanity refused, the alien ships had begun moving toward the planet's major cities. "We defended our home," Jake said, his voice barely a whisper through the ping of the energy chains. Kor's massive head turned toward him. "You speak of defense? You attacked a peaceful mission." "Peaceful?" Jake found the strength to laugh, though it hurt. "You came with warships. You demanded our resources. You threatened our cities. What did you expect us to do?" The Rock People's representative spoke for the first time. Its voice sounded like grinding stone. "Expected you to be civilized. Expected you to understand your place." "Our place?" Jake struggled to sit up straighter. You mean as slaves to provide resources for your empire? The insect collective's buzzing grew louder. Their translator device made their words sound like static. Humans lack understanding of galactic order. Dangerous, unpredictable. Should have been watched longer before contact. Ambassador Vex nodded, water sloshing in his tank. Indeed, our observation teams have studied humanity for 40 years. The reports are troubling. This species has never known true peace. They fight each other constantly. They destroy their own environment. They refuse to submit to any authority they do not choose. The chamber filled with murmurs from the assembled aliens. Jake could feel their fear and disgust like a weight in the air. The evidence is clear, Vex continued. Humanity is too violent for civilized space. Too unpredictable to be trusted with advanced technology. Too dangerous to be allowed free movement among peaceful worlds. Chancellor Kor raised one massive clawed hand, and silence fell instantly. The question before us is simple. What do we do with a species that attacks those who offer them civilization? Destroy them, came a voice from the warrior caste section. End the threat before it spreads. No, said another voice, this one from the peaceful scholars. Genocide is forbidden by council law, even for dangerous species. Jake watched the debate unfold around him. Some aliens wanted humanity wiped out completely. Others suggested imprisonment or monitoring. A few even argued for giving humans another chance. But Ambassador Vex had a different idea. There is another option, he said, his tank moving to the center of the chamber. Exile. Permanent exile to a world where they can harm no one but themselves. The suggestion created a buzz of interest. Jake felt his heart sink as he realized where this was going. The system designated Kepler 442 contains a planet, Vex explained. It is classified as a Class-0 Deathworld. No known species has ever survived there for more than a few months. The environment is completely hostile to all known forms of life. Images of the planet appeared on the chamber walls. It looked like something from a nightmare. Red storms covered continents. The surface glowed with heat from twin suns. Even from space, it looked angry and dangerous. We transport all humans to this world, Vex said. We give them basic survival equipment, nothing more. If they are as tough as they claim, perhaps they will survive. If not, nature will solve our problem for us. Chancellor Kor considered this proposal. His reptilian features showed nothing, but Jake could sense he liked the idea. This planet, Kor said slowly. No species has survived there? None, Vex confirmed. The gravity is crushing. The atmosphere is toxic. The native life forms are extremely aggressive. The temperature swings would kill most beings in hours. It is truly a place where only the dead go. The debate continued for hours. Jake sat in his chains, listening to aliens discuss his species' fate like they were deciding where to dump garbage. Some worried the exile was too cruel. Others thought it was too kind. Finally, Chancellor Kor called for silence. He stood to his full impressive height, his shadow falling across Jake like a dark promise. The Galactic Council has decided, Kor announced. Humanity is guilty of violence against civilized space. You are too dangerous to live among peaceful species. Therefore, you are sentenced to permanent exile. Jake's heart pounded as the words hit him. All humans will be transported to the Kepler 442 system. You will be given basic survival equipment and nothing more. Your ships will be destroyed. Your technology will be confiscated. You will never again be permitted to leave that world. The energy chains around Jake's wrists grew tighter as guards prepared to take him away. 7 billion humans, Kor continued. All of them exiled to a world that kills everything that touches it. Perhaps this will teach your species the price of violence. As the guards dragged him from the chamber, Jake heard Ambassador Vex speaking to another council member. How long do you think they will last on that world? The other alien asked. Vex's gills fluttered in what Jake now recognized as alien laughter. 6 months, perhaps less. That planet has never allowed anything to survive for long. The massive doors of the judgment chamber closed behind Jake with a sound like thunder. In the distance, he could hear the engines of transport ships being prepared. Soon, every human in the galaxy would be heading toward a world designed to kill them. But as the guards pushed him down the long corridor toward the holding cells, Jake made himself a promise. The Council thought they were sending humanity to die. Instead, they might be giving his species exactly what they needed to become something greater. The question was whether any humans would live long enough to find out. The transport ship Exodus shook violently as it entered the atmosphere of Kepler 442c. Dr. Emma Reed pressed her face against the small window and watched red lightning tear across angry clouds. The planet looked even worse up close than it had. In the Council's images, everything was the color of dried blood. "Landing in 5 minutes," announced the ship's captain over the intercom. His voice sounded tired. This was the last transport ship, carrying the final group of human exiles. For 6 months, ships had been dumping humans on this nightmare world. Now the job was finally done. Emma clutched her medical bag tighter as the ship bounced through another air pocket. Around her, 300 humans sat in cramped seats, their faces pale with fear. Most wore the gray prisoner uniforms the Council had given them. Everyone had breathing masks strapped to their faces because the planet's air was poison. "What do you think is down there?" asked the woman sitting next to Emma. Her name was Lisa Park, and she had been an engineer on Earth. Now, she was just another exile heading toward an unknown fate. "I don't know," Emma admitted. "But the briefing said other humans have been here for months. Some of them must have survived." Lisa nodded, but her hands shook as she adjusted her breathing mask. The Council ships that dropped off first groups never reported back on how people were doing. That's not a good sign. The ship's engines roared as they fought against the planet's heavy gravity. Emma felt herself pressed deeper into her seat. Her body already ached, and they hadn't even landed yet. The gravity here was almost twice as strong as Earth's. Every step would feel like carrying another person on her back. Through the window, Emma saw the ground rushing up to meet them. The landing site looked like a crater surrounded by twisted metal structures. As they got closer, she realized the metal wasn't buildings at all. They were the remains of other transport ships, scattered across the red dirt like broken toys. The Exodus hit the ground hard, throwing everyone forward in their seats. Emergency lights flashed as the ship's systems struggled to adapt to the hostile environment. Through the speakers, they could hear the wind outside howling like a living thing. "Welcome to Kepler 442c, the captain said, though he didn't sound welcoming at all. "Gravity is 1.8 times Earth normal. Atmosphere requires breathing equipment at all times. Surface temperature is currently 140 degrees Fahrenheit and climbing. The suns won't set for another 6 hours. Emma unbuckled her restraints and stood up slowly. Her legs felt like they were made of lead. Around her, other passengers struggled to adapt to the crushing gravity. An elderly man collapsed as soon as he tried to stand. 2 others had to help him back into his seat. The ship's cargo doors opened with a grinding sound of protesting metal. Hot air rushed in, carrying the smell of sulfur and something else Emma couldn't identify. It smelled like death. "Move quickly," ordered one of the Council guards. The alien wore a full environmental suit that protected it from the planet's hostile conditions. "Your supplies are being unloaded now. Once we leave, you are on your own." Emma joined the slow line of humans shuffling toward the exit. Each person received a basic survival pack containing water purification tablets, emergency food for 3 days, and a simple shelter that looked like it would fall apart in the first strong wind. Outside, the heat hit Emma like a physical blow. Even with her breathing mask, the air felt thick and wrong in her lungs. The sky above was the color of rust, and two burning suns hung overhead like angry eyes. In the distance, strange rock formations jutted up from the ground like the bones of giant creatures. "Over here," called a voice from behind one of the crashed ships. Emma turned to see a group of humans waving at the new arrivals. They wore makeshift clothing and looked thin, but they were alive. A tall man with a thick beard jogged toward them, moving carefully in the heavy gravity. His clothes were patched and dirty, but his eyes were bright with intelligence. "I'm Marcus Webb," he said, shaking hands with some of the new arrivals. "I came down with the first transport 6 months ago. We've got a settlement about 2 miles from here. How many of you are left?" asked Lisa Park. Marcus's face grew dark. "Out of the first 1,000 who landed, maybe 300 are still alive. This place kills people fast if they don't learn the rules." Emma felt her heart sink. A 70% death rate in just 6 months. At that pace, humanity would be extinct within a year. "What kind of rules?" she asked. "First rule, Marcus. Sod," pointing at the blazing suns above. "Those suns don't set for 14 hours. When they do, the temperature drops to below freezing in less than an hour. You need shelter that can handle both extremes, or you're dead." He started walking toward the settlement, and the new arrivals followed. Emma noticed that Marcus moved with careful, measured steps. In the heavy gravity, running or jumping could easily break bones. "Second rule," Marcus continued as they walked. "The water sources all contain heavy metals that will poison you slowly. But some of the native plants can filter the toxins if you know how to use them. Dr. Kevin Williams figured that out. Saved a lot of lives." They passed a field of strange, twisted plants that looked more like sculptures made of crystal than living things. The plants pulsed with their own internal light, creating an eerie glow in the red landscape. "Third rule," Marcus said, his voice getting more serious. "Everything here wants to kill you. The plants, the animals, even the dirt is toxic. But if you watch and learn, you can find ways to use the planet's own defenses to protect yourself." As if summoned by his words, something moved in the crystal plant field. Emma caught a glimpse of a creature the size of a horse, with too many legs and skin that looked like living metal. It watched them for a moment with glowing eyes, then disappeared back into the plants. "What was that?" Lisa whispered. "We call them stalkers," Marcus replied. "They hunt in packs and they're smart. They've learned to avoid our settlement, but they pick off anyone who wanders alone." The settlement came into view as they climbed a small hill. Emma was surprised by what she saw. Instead of the desperate refugee camp she had expected, she found organized rows of structures built into the hillside. The buildings looked strange, made from local materials she didn't recognize, but they appeared sturdy. "How did you build all this?" Emma asked. Marcus smiled for the first time since they had met. "We learned to use what the planet gives us. Those crystal plants, they're harder than steel when they die. The toxic soil, it makes excellent concrete when you mix it. Right, even the stalkers have their uses." He pointed to a fence around the settlement made from the bones of large creatures. "Stalker remains. Turns out their bones are naturally radioactive. Other predators avoid the radiation." They entered the settlement through a gate guarded by 2 humans carrying weapons that looked like they had been grown rather than built. The guards nodded to Marcus but kept their eyes on the horizon. "We've got housing for everyone," Marcus said to the new arrivals. "Basic food and water. Medical care thanks to the doctors who came with earlier groups. But understand this, everyone works. Everyone contributes. This isn't Earth. There's no room for people who can't pull their weight." Emma looked around at the bustling settlement. Children played in the streets, adapted to the heavy gravity better than the adults. People worked together repairing buildings and tending strange gardens filled with alien plants. It wasn't comfortable, but it was alive. "You," Said 300 survived out of 1,000, Emma said to Marcus. What happened to the others? Marcus stopped walking and turned to face her. His expression was grim but determined. Some died from the heat or cold before they learned to build proper shelter. Others tried to drink unfiltered water or eat the wrong plants. A few got picked off by predators when they wandered too far from the group. He paused, looking out at the hostile landscape around them. But most died because they gave up. They looked at this place and decided it was impossible to survive here. They just sat down and waited to die. Emma followed his gaze across the red wasteland. In the distance, she could see storm clouds gathering, crackling with strange colored lightning. The twin suns beat down mercilessly, and she could feel the planet's toxic atmosphere trying to seep through her breathing mask. And the ones who lived? She asked. Marcus turned back to her with a smile that was both sad and proud. The ones who lived decided that impossible just meant no one had figured out how to do it yet. That night, as Emma lay in her assigned shelter, listening to the alien wind howl outside, she thought about Marcus's words. The Council had sent humanity here to die. They had dumped 7 billion people on a world that killed everything it touched. But humans were still here, still fighting, still learning. Maybe the Council had made a mistake. Maybe they had given humanity exactly what it needed to become something stronger. Outside, something roared in the distance, answered by other voices across the wasteland. The planet was calling, challenging any who dared to make it their home. Emma closed her eyes and tried to sleep, knowing that tomorrow would bring new lessons in survival. The Council thought they had sentenced humanity to death. Instead, they might have given humanity the chance to evolve. 2 years had passed since the first humans landed on Kepler 442c, in the monitoring station orbiting the Deathworld. Ambassador Vex stared at the data screens with growing confusion. The numbers made no sense. Run the population scan again. He ordered his assistant, a young member of the Aquatic Dominion whose gills fluttered nervously. Sir, I have run it 12 times. The results are the same. The assistant's voice bubbled through his water-filled helmet. Human population is now at 7.3 billion. Vex's black eyes widened in disbelief. That is impossible. When we started the exile, there were 7 billion humans. In 2 years on a Class-0 Deathworld, the population should be near 0. The readings are accurate, sir. Not only are the humans surviving, but their numbers are growing. Birth rates are actually higher than they were on Earth. Down on the planet's surface, Dr. Emma Reed walked through the main street of New Haven, the largest human settlement. She no longer needed a breathing mask. The modifications to her lungs, developed over months of careful exposure to the filtered atmosphere, allowed her to breathe the planet's air directly. Around her, the settlement had transformed into something that barely resembled the desperate refugee camp of 2 years ago. Buildings rose 5 stories high, carved directly into the mountain face and reinforced with crystallized plant matter. Gardens flourished in terraced levels, growing food that was part earth crop, part alien adaptation. Emma paused to watch a group of children playing in the central square. These were the new generation, born on Kepler 442c. They moved with an easy grace in the heavy gravity that still challenged adults who had grown up on Earth. Their skin had a subtle reddish tint that helped them process the planet's harsh sunlight. And their lungs were larger, naturally adapted to extract oxygen from the thin atmosphere. Dr. Reed called a voice from across the square. Lisa Park jogged toward her, no longer the frightened engineer who had arrived on the last transport. 2 years of survival had changed her into something harder and more capable. You need to see what we've discovered in Lab 7. Emma followed Lisa through winding tunnels carved into the mountain. The passages were lined with a phosphorescent fungus that provided soft light without the need for electrical power. Everything in New Haven had been built using the planet's own resources, turned from weapons against humanity into tools for survival. Lab 7 buzzed with activity. Human scientists worked alongside living computers grown from modified alien fungi. The computers were Emma's proudest achievement. Biological processors that could adapt and learn in ways that mechanical technology never could. "Show her the test results," Lisa said to Dr. Kevin Williams, the settlement's head of biological research. Kevin pulled up a series of images on one of the living screens. The images showed human cells, but they looked different from normal Earth. Human cells, stronger, more complex. "We've been studying the children born here," Kevin explained. "Their cellular structure is remarkable. The heavy metals in the water, the radiation from the twin suns, the toxic compounds in the air, instead of killing them, these things are making them stronger." Emma leaned closer to examine the data. "How is that possible?" "Their gut bacteria," Kevin said, pointing to microscopic images. "The microorganisms that help humans digest food have mutated in response to the environment. But instead of harmful mutations, they've become beneficial. These new bacteria can process toxins and turn them into useful compounds." Lisa added, "The children don't just survive the planet's hostile environment, they thrive in it. They're faster, stronger, and more resistant to radiation than normal humans. And the changes aren't just physical." She pulled up another screen showing brain scan data. "Their neural development is accelerated. They're learning to communicate with the planet's ecosystem in ways we never imagined possible." Emma studied the scans with fascination. "You're saying the children are evolving?" "Not just evolving," Kevin corrected. "They're becoming something new, something designed specifically for this world." Outside Lab 7, the settlement continued its daily routine. In the workshops, humans crafted tools and weapons from the bones and shells of native creatures. The weapons weren't just effective against the planet's predators. They were alive, able to adapt to different threats and repair themselves when damaged. Marcus Webb stood on the observation deck overlooking the valley below New Haven. What had once been barren wasteland now showed signs of human terraforming. Sections of the toxic soil had been treated with engineered bacteria, turning poisonous ground into fertile farmland. Streams that had run with contaminated water now flowed, clean, filtered by living systems that the humans had learned to cultivate. "The expansion is ahead of schedule," reported Dr. Alex Chun, the settlement's chief engineer. "Settlement Gamma is ready for occupation, and Settlement Delta will be finished within the month." Marcus nodded, watching flying creatures circle overhead. 2 years ago, those same creatures had been deadly predators that hunted humans for food. Now they were domesticated, trained to serve as scouts and messengers between the scattered human settlements. "Any word from the Deep Cave expedition?" Marcus asked. "They found it," Alex said with excitement. "A massive cavern system that extends for miles underground. And Marcus, you're not going to believe what they found down there." In the depths of the planet, a team of human explorers made their way through tunnels that pulsed with organic light. The cave system was vast beyond imagination. And it wasn't natural. Something had grown these passages, shaped them with purpose. Team leader Dr. Sarah Kim stopped at a junction where the tunnel opened into a massive chamber. In the center of the space sat something that took her breath away. It looked like a ship, but not built with metal and circuits. This vessel had been grown, its hull formed from the same crystallized plant matter that humans now used for construction. "This changes everything," Sarah whispered into her radio. "This isn't just a death world, it's a shipyard." Her team spread out to examine the vessel. It was clearly designed for space travel, with chambers that could sustain life and what appeared to be a propulsion system based on biological processes. Most importantly, it was sized for human occupation. Back in New Haven, Emma received Sarah's report with amazement. "You're saying there's a space-capable vessel down there?" "Not just one. Sarah's voice crackled through the communication system. "We've found evidence of an entire fleet. And Emma, these ships aren't dead technology. They're dormant, waiting for the right biological signals to activate them." The implications hit Emma like a physical blow. The planet wasn't just hostile. It was intelligent. It had been testing humanity, seeing if they could adapt and evolve. Those who proved worthy were given access to tools beyond their imagination. Meanwhile, far above the planet, Ambassador Vex paced nervously in his monitoring station. The latest reports from the surface made no sense according to everything the Council knew about Deathworlds. "Sir," his assistant reported, "we're detecting massive construction projects across multiple continents. The humans appear to be terraforming significant portions of the planet." "Show me," Vex demanded. The main screen displayed satellite imagery of the planet's surface. Where once there had been nothing but hostile wasteland, green patches now spread. Like a slow infection. Human settlements dotted the landscape, connected by roads and communication networks. Most disturbing of all, the settlements were expanding rapidly. "How many humans are on the planet now?" Vex asked, though he dreaded the answer. 12 billion, sir. The population has nearly doubled since the exile began." Vex felt his gills close in shock. 12 billion humans on a world that should have killed them all within months. It was impossible, but the evidence was right in front of him. "There's more, sir," the assistant continued nervously. "We're detecting unusual energy. Signatures from deep within the planet. Something is powering up down there." On the planet's surface, Emma stood in the main laboratory watching the most important experiment in human history. Dr. Kevin Williams had successfully interfaced human neural tissue with the planet's native biological computers. The result was a hybrid consciousness that could control the dormant vessels found in the deep caves. "The ships respond to human thought patterns," Kevin explained, his voice filled with wonder. "But only humans who have adapted to the planet's environment. The evolutionary changes aren't just making us stronger. They're making us compatible with this world's technology." Emma placed her hand on the biocomputer interface. Immediately, she felt her consciousness expand. She could sense the vast network of caves beneath the planet, feel the sleeping ships waiting to wake up. More than that, she could sense the planet itself, as if it were a living entity that had been waiting for humanity to arrive. "It's not a death world at all," she realized. "It's a test." And we passed. Lisa Park monitored the data streams flowing through the biocomputers. "The ships are coming online across the planet. We count at least 200 vessels, each one capable of interstellar travel." In New Haven's command center, Marcus Webb received reports from settlements across the planet. Everywhere, the buried ships were awakening. Humans who had been changed by their time on the Deathworld found they could pilot the vessels as naturally as walking. "Sir," one of his communications officers reported, "we're receiving a message from Settlement Omega. They report successful launch of a bioship. The vessel is fully operational and responding to human neural commands." Marcus smiled grimly. The Council had exiled humanity to this world, believing it would kill them. Instead, it had given them something they never could have achieved on Earth: evolution and technology beyond anything in known space. "Open a channel to all settlements," Marcus ordered. "It's time to let the Council know how their punishment worked out." High above the planet, Ambassador Vex watched in horror as something emerged from the planet's surface. It wasn't like any ship in the Council database. The vessel seemed to be alive, its hull rippling like skin, and its propulsion system leaving a trail of organic matter that sparkled in the void. "Alert the Council immediately," Vex ordered. "Tell them the humans are no longer trapped on the Deathworld." His assistant's voice trembled as he replied, "Sir, we're detecting multiple launches across the planet. There are ships rising from every major settlement." Vex stared at the growing fleet of bioships surrounding his monitoring station. Each vessel pulsed with its own internal light, and he could sense somehow that they were looking back at him. "What have we done?" he whispered. Captain Jake Torres stood on the bridge of the bioship Vengeance, watching the stars bend around them as they traveled through space at impossible speeds. 5 years had passed since his trial at the council chambers, and he was no longer the same man who had been dragged away in energy chains. His body had changed during his time on Kepler 442c. He was taller now, his muscles denser from years in heavy gravity. His skin had the same reddish tint as the children born on the Deathworld, and his eyes could see deeper into the spectrum of light. Most importantly, his mind had expanded. He could interface directly with the living ship, feeling its thoughts. Merge with his own. Distance to target? He asked his navigation officer. 3 minutes to the council monitoring station, Captain, replied Lieutenant Aina Reeves. Like Jake, she had been transformed by their years of exile. Her hands moved over the bioship's living controls with perfect precision, reading data directly from the vessel's nervous system. Through the ship's organic sensors, Jake could feel the fear radiating from the council station ahead. Ambassador Vex and his crew had been sending desperate messages to the Galactic Council for hours, begging for reinforcements that would never arrive in time. "Weapons status?" Jake asked. "All systems ready, sir," reported his tactical officer. "The ship is eager to show its capabilities." Jake smiled at that. The bioships weren't just vessels, they were partners. Each one had its own personality, its own desires. The Vengeance had been grown in the deep caves of Kepler 442c specifically for this mission. It wanted to hunt just as much as its human crew did. On the council monitoring station, Ambassador Vex stared at his screens in growing panic. The human bioship approached with impossible speed and grace. Its hull rippled like living tissue, and energy patterns flowed across its surface in ways that defied known physics. "Have you reached the council fleet?" Vex asked his communications. "Officer, sir, the nearest council ships are 4 days away." This station was never meant to face military threats. Vex's gills fluttered rapidly as he processed this information. The monitoring station had weapons, but they were designed to destroy small research vessels or disable primitive spacecraft. Against whatever the humans had become, they would be useless. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "the human vessel is broadcasting on all frequencies." "Put it through," Vex ordered, though he dreaded what he might hear. Jake's voice filled the council station, calm and controlled. "Ambassador Vex, this is Captain Jake Torres of the Human Colonial Fleet. I believe you remember me from my trial." 5 years ago, Vex forced himself to respond. "Captain Torres, you were exiled to Kepler 442c. How are you here?" "Your punishment worked exactly as intended," Jake replied with dark humor. "You sent us to a world designed to kill us. Instead, it taught us to evolve. We learned to adapt, to change, to become something greater than we were." Through the station sensors, Vex could see that the human ship wasn't alone. More biovessels emerged from hyperspace, surrounding the council station in a loose formation. Each ship pulsed with its own organic light, creating a constellation of living stars. "What do you want?" Vex asked, his voice barely steady. "To deliver a message," Jake responded. "The same message you delivered to us 5 years ago. You judged U.S. unworthy of civilized space. Now we return the favor." On the bridge of the Vengeance, Jake's crew monitored the dozen other bioships that had joined them. Each vessel carried humans who had been transformed by their exile on the Deathworld. They were no longer the same species that had been banished. From Earth, there was something new, something evolved, something dangerous. "Captain," reported his science officer, Dr. Emma Reed, "we're receiving data from the other ships. All crews report successful integration with their vessels. The fleet is operating as a single organism," Jake nodded. The bioships weren't just individual vessels. They could link together, sharing information and coordinating attacks with perfect precision. It was a capability that no Council fleet could match. Ambassador Vex, Jake continued his broadcast, I want you to understand what your Council has created. You thought you were sending us to die. Instead, you sent us to school. He gestured to his crew, all of them transformed by their years on the Deathworld. We learned to survive in conditions that would kill any member of your precious Council. We learned to adapt to environments that your species can't even imagine. We learned to work with living technology that makes your machines look like children's toys. Through the station's cameras, Vex could see into the human ship's bridge. What he saw there made his blood run cold. The humans moved with perfect coordination, their hands interfacing directly with organic controls that responded to their thoughts. Their eyes glowed with an inner light that spoke of enhanced neural activity. You're no longer human, Vex said. Unable to hide his horror. No, Jake agreed calmly. We're something better. We're what humanity becomes when you stop trying to limit our growth. Dr. Emma Reed stepped forward on the bridge, and Jake nodded for her to take over the communication. As the lead scientist who had guided humanity's biological adaptation, she understood better than anyone what they had become. Ambassador Vex, Emma said, her voice carrying new harmonics that resonated strangely through the station's speakers. Your Council studied us for 40 years before making contact. You observed our wars, our conflicts, our struggles. But you misunderstood what you were seeing. She walked to the ship's bio-interface and placed her hands on the living controls. Immediately, the Vengeance's hull began to shift and change, displaying patterns of light that conveyed complex information. You saw violence and called us dangerous. You saw adaptation and called us unpredictable. You saw our refusal to submit and called us uncivilized. Emma's enhanced eyes fixed on the camera, transmitting to the Council station. But those traits aren't weaknesses. They're exactly what a species needs to survive and evolve in hostile conditions. On the station, Vex watched the human ship transform before his eyes. What had looked like a vessel now resembled something alive and predatory. Other bioships in the fleet began similar transformations, their hulls reshaping into forms that spoke of incredible destructive potential. The Deathworld you sent us to wasn't our punishment, Emma continued. It was our classroom. Every day we spent there made us stronger, smarter, more capable. The planet tested us with impossible challenges, and we passed every test. Jake resumed. Control of the communication. We're not here for revenge, Ambassador. We're here to deliver a simple message to your Council. Humanity is no longer bound by your laws or limited by your expectations. He paused, letting that sink in before continuing. We're going home to Earth. We're going to reclaim our homeworld and establish our own stellar nation. Any Council ship that tries to stop us will discover exactly what we learned during our exile. The bioship's sensors detected massive energy buildups throughout the human fleet. Vex realized with growing terror that each vessel was charging weapon systems based on principles the Council had never encountered. You can't threaten the Galactic Council, Vex said, though his voice lacked conviction. We have thousands of ships, millions of soldiers. And we have something you don't, Jake replied. We have evolution on our side. Lieutenant Reeves reported from her station. Captain, long-range sensors detect the Council defense fleet moving to intercept us at the edge of this system. 47 ships, including 3 dreadnoughts. Jake smiled grimly. How long until they reach us? 6 hours, sir. Perfect. That gives us time to complete our demonstration. He turned back to the communication channel with Ambassador Vex. You're about to witness the first field test of human bioweapon technology. I suggest you record everything for your Council masters. The Vengeance turned toward one of the system's dead moons, a barren rock about the size of Earth's moon. Jake placed his hands on the ship's neural interface and felt the vessel's excitement as it prepared to unleash its primary weapon. Fire! Jake commanded. The bioship released a stream of organic matter that struck the moon's surface and immediately began to spread. Within minutes, the entire lunar surface was covered in a web of living tissue that pulsed with its own light. "What have you done?" Vex whispered. "We've shown you what terraforming looks like when it's done by a species that has learned to work with living systems," Emma explained. "That moon is now capable of supporting human life. The process took 15 minutes. Your best terraforming technology would require decades to achieve the same result." Jake added, "Now imagine what that same technology could do to your homeworlds if we decided to use it as a weapon instead of a tool." Through the station's sensors, Vex watched the transformed moon continue to change. The organic matter was building structures on the surface, creating an instant colony ready for human habitation. The speed and efficiency of the process was beyond anything in Council records. "The Council fleet approaching us has 47 ships," Jake continued conversationally. "Each one carries thousands of crew members who believe they're going into battle against primitive humans with stolen technology." He paused, and Vex could hear the dangerous satisfaction in his voice. "They're about to learn that the humans they're facing aren't the same species that was exiled 5 years ago. We've become something that your council never prepared for. Something that your military doctrine has no answer for." The human fleet began to move, their bioships flowing through space with predatory grace. Each vessel pulsed with its own rhythm, but Vex could sense they were all connected, all part of a larger organism that spanned multiple ships. "When your fleet arrives," Jake said, "they'll find that the humans they came to fight have evolved beyond their ability to understand or defeat. We're not just using living technology, we've become living technology." On the bridge of the Vengeance, Jake's crew prepared for the approaching battle with calm efficiency. They had trained for this moment during their years on the Deathworld, learning to fight as a unified organism rather than individual soldiers. "Captain," Dr. Reed reported, "all ships report ready for combat integration. The fleet is prepared to demonstrate full bio-warfare capabilities." Jake nodded and opened a final communication to Ambassador Vex. "Tell your council that humanity sends its regards, and tell them that we're coming home." The Council Defense Fleet arrived at the edge of the Kepler 442 system in perfect formation. Admiral Vex of the Rock People commanded the massive dreadnought Stonehammer, confident that 47 warships would be more than enough to deal with a handful of human vessels. "Target acquisition complete," reported his tactical officer. "We count 30 inhuman ships in a loose formation around the monitoring station." Admiral Vex studied the sensor readings with confusion. The human vessels didn't match any known ship design in the Council database. They appeared to be organic, their hulls shifting and changing like living tissue. "What are we looking at?" he asked his science officer. "Unknown, sir. The ships appear to be biological in nature. Our sensors detect massive energy signatures, but we can't identify the power source or weapons systems." Through the fleet's communication system, Admiral Vex addressed his captains. "All ships, maintain formation. These are primitive humans with stolen technology. Stay alert, but remember we are dealing with a species barely capable of space travel." On the bridge of the Vengeance, Captain Jake Torres watched the Council fleet approach with calm satisfaction. The bioship's living sensors fed him detailed information about each enemy vessel, their weaknesses mapped out in his enhanced mind. 47 ships, reported Lieutenant Reeves. 3 dreadnoughts, 12 heavy cruisers, and 32 destroyers. Standard Council battle formation. Jake nodded. The Council fleet was impressive by the standards of normal warfare. But normal warfare no longer applied to humanity. "Dr. Reed, initiate fleet integration," Jake ordered. Emma placed her hands on the bioship's neural interface, and immediately the 30 inhuman vessels began to connect on a biological level. Their hulls started to glow with synchronized patterns of light as they shared information and coordinated their response. Admiral Vex watched this display with growing unease. What are they doing? Sir, the human ships appear to be linking together somehow. We're detecting massive data transfers between vessels, but the communication method is unknown. Jake opened a communication channel to the Council fleet. Admiral Vex, this is Captain Torres. You have entered human space. I'm giving you one chance to withdraw. The Admiral's rocky features twisted into what might have been a smile. Human space? You were exiled from civilized territory. You have no claim to any system. We have a claim to any system we can hold, Jake replied calmly. And Admiral, you're about to discover that we can hold this one. Through the fleet's sensors, Admiral Vex could see that the human ships were moving into a new formation. Instead of the defensive positions he expected, they were spreading out in a pattern that made no tactical sense according to Council military doctrine. Sir, his weapons officer reported, the human vessels have activated some kind of energy field. It's surrounding our entire fleet. Admiral Vex looked at his tactical display and felt his first moment of real concern. The 13 human ships had positioned themselves at precise points around the Council fleet, and energy was flowing between them in complex patterns. All ships, open fire, he ordered. Destroy those vessels before they can complete whatever they're attempting. The Council fleet unleashed a massive barrage of plasma weapons and missile volleys. The firepower was enough to destroy a small moon, all of it focused on the human BO-ships. But the weapons never reached their targets. The energy field between the human ships absorbed the incoming fire, converting it into raw power that made the bio-vessels glow even brighter. What should have been a devastating attack instead strengthened the enemy. Impossible, Admiral Vex whispered on the Vengeance. Jake felt the bio-ship's satisfaction as it fed on the Council weapons fire. The living vessel had been designed to absorb and redirect energy, turning enemy attacks into fuel for its own. Systems, fleet integration complete, Dr. Reed reported. All ships are now operating as a single organism. Weapon systems are charged and ready. Jake placed both hands on the neural interface, feeling his consciousness merge with the entire human fleet. 13 ships became one massive predator, with Jake's mind directing its movements. Fire, he commanded. The human bioships released their coordinated attack. Instead of traditional weapons, they launched streams of organic matter that moved through space like living creatures. The projectiles adapted and changed as they flew, evolving to counter the Council ship's defensive measures. Admiral Vex watched in horror as the bioweapons struck his fleet. Where they hit, the Council ship's hulls began to change. Metal twisted into organic shapes, and the vessel's own systems turned against them. Engineering reports massive system failures across the fleet, his communications officer announced. The human weapons are converting our ships into something else. Through the Stonehammer's sensors, Admiral Vex could see his destroyers transforming. Their hulls sprouted growths that looked like living tissue, and their weapon systems were being restructured into forms that defied understanding. Medical emergency on all decks, came another report. Crews are reporting strange symptoms. Enhanced strength, improved reflexes, but also changes. Jake opened a communication channel to the Council fleet. Admiral, your ships and crews are being converted to human biotechnology. The process is irreversible. You have two choices: surrender now or be completely transformed. Admiral Vex tried to respond, but found that his own ship's communication systems were no longer under his control. The Stonehammer's hull was changing, becoming something alive and responsive. Worse, he could feel changes in his own body. His rocky skin was becoming more flexible, and his mind was expanding in ways that terrified him. "What have you done to us?" he managed to transmit. We've given you the same gift the Council gave us, Jake replied. Evolution, adaptation, the chance to become something greater than what you were. Across the Council fleet, similar transformations were taking place. Crew members found their bodies adapting to work with biotechnology. Their ships became living entities that responded to thought rather than mechanical controls. Within hours, what had been a Council battle fleet became part of the human bio-network. Far away on Nexus Prime, High Chancellor Kor received the final transmission from Admiral Vex's fleet. The message was brief and terrifying. Council fleet has been converted. Human biotechnology beyond our understanding. They're not just fighting us, they're assimilating us. Kor called an emergency session of the full Galactic Council. Representatives from all 12 member species gathered in the Great Chamber where humanity had been judged 5 years earlier. The situation is clear, Kor announced to the assembled aliens. Our punishment of humanity has failed catastrophically. Instead of destroying them, we have created something beyond our ability to control. Ambassador Vex, who had witnessed the human demonstration firsthand, addressed the Council. They are no longer the species we exiled. They have evolved into something that treats our most advanced technology like primitive tools. The Insect Collective's representative spoke up, its voice buzzing with alarm. Human bioships now control 17 star systems. They are terraforming planets at impossible speeds. Our military cannot stop them. Kor surveyed the chamber, seeing fear in every alien face. What do you propose we do? Negotiate, said the representative from the Peaceful Scholars. We must accept that humanity has evolved beyond our ability to contain or control. Negotiate with what? Demanded the warrior caste delegate. They're not human anymore. There's something else, something that turns our own weapons and ships against us. As the Council debated, human bioships continued their expansion across the galaxy. Each world they encountered was given a choice: join the new human civilization voluntarily or be converted through biotechnological integration. Most chose to join, on Earth, now reclaimed and transformed by human biotechnology. Marcus Webb stood in the restored city of New York. The buildings were alive, growing from seeds planted in the fertile soil that had been toxic just months before. Children played in streets lined with trees that provided both oxygen and organic computing power. Report from the Frontier Fleets, announced his aide, a woman whose enhanced physiology allowed her to interface directly with the planet's bio-network. All expansion proceeds according to plan, Marcus replied. 43 star systems now under human control. Local species are adapting well to bio-integration. He looked up at the sky, where bioships moved like living clouds among the restored. Atmosphere. Earth was no longer just a planet. It was the heart of a new kind of civilization, one that grew and adapted rather than simply conquering. Dr. Emma Reed arrived at Marcus's location, her form now more energy than matter as she had evolved beyond the need for a fixed physical body. The Council has sent another diplomatic mission, she reported. They're requesting formal negotiations, Marcus smiled. After 5 years of evolution, they're finally ready to talk. What are they offering? Complete autonomy for human space. Recognition of our territorial claims, and ... Emma paused. They want to learn our biotechnology. Of course they do, Marcus laughed. They spent centuries believing that mechanical technology was the pinnacle of development. Now they've seen what organic evolution can achieve. Captain Jake Torres materialized beside them, his consciousness transmitted through the bio-network from his ship in distant space. The Council representatives are requesting permission to enter Earth's system. They claim to come in peace. Marcus considered this. The Council that had exiled humanity to die was now begging for the technology that exile had given them. It was ironic justice of the highest order. Grant them permission, he decided, but make sure they understand the terms. Any Council ship entering human space becomes part of our bio-network. They can keep their consciousness and free will. But their technology becomes ours. Emma nodded. They won't like those terms. Then they can stay in their diminishing territory and watch as more species choose to join us voluntarily, Marcus replied. We're not conquering the galaxy. We're evolving it. Through the bio-network, he could sense the millions of humans spread across dozens of worlds, all connected in a vast organism of consciousness and purpose. They had become something the Council never imagined possible, a truly galactic species. That grew stronger with each challenge it faced. The Council had tried to eliminate humanity by sending them to a death world. Instead, they had given humanity the greatest gift possible, the chance to evolve beyond the limitations of their original biology. Now, as bioships carried human consciousness to new stars and living cities grew on transformed worlds, it was clear that the Council's punishment had backfired in the most spectacular way possible. Humanity was no longer bound by the rules of the old galaxy. They had become the rules themselves.